So here's an interesting thing I wanted to share with you because there's actually a lot that goes into this dynamic. But Joe Biden says no new taxes for anybody making under $400,000 a year. This is indicative of a rightward shift in the Democratic Party. Back early on in the Obama years, the argument was, hey, we're not going to raise taxes on anybody making less than $100,000 a year. That was the original Obama position. Then that became, fast forward a few years, we're not going to raise taxes on anybody making under $250,000 a year. Fast forward again, about a decade. Now the Biden position is, we're not going to raise taxes on anybody making under $400,000 a year. Listen, I actually agree with the original Obama position. As somebody who's a leftist, I do think that working people should get more government services, but also not have to pay more taxes. Because you already pay enough taxes. It just happens to go to war and Wall Street bailouts and all types of nonsense. So yes, if I was president, I would not raise taxes on anybody making $100,000 a year or less. So I actually agree with that original Obama position. But now you see it, they're slowly creeping, raise that. And then now, what's the next step? Nobody making less than $1 million a year will see their taxes raised. That's $1 million a year is a lot of goddamn money. I think they can afford to have their taxes raised a little bit. And you're also talking about, it's a matter of percentages now. So like, I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment, but going off of memory previously from looking at these things, like $100,000 a year. So basically, I wouldn't raise taxes on like 95% of Americans. 5% of Americans, yes, you would have a tax increase, but it's also on a progressive scale. So in other words, you pay a little more if you make $200,000. You pay a little more than that if you make $300,000. But we need, higher marginal taxes on the rich. There should be new brackets for over $500,000, over $1 million a year, over $5 million a year. And unfortunately, they just keep raising this number. So nobody will see a tax increase if you make even $350,000 a year. And by the way, to the extent he would even raise taxes on those making over $400,000 a year, it's going to be bupkis. It's going to be basically going back to like the Clinton rates. What was Bill Clinton's rate? 39% top marginal tax rate on the top bracket. What was it under George W. Bush, for example? 35%. Wow, a whole, another 4%. So it's indicative of a continued rightward shift in the Democratic Party to the point where they're just trying to embody all the Republican arguments, and they're basically admitting they are the moderate Republican Party in today's day and age. That's what they are. I mean, they packed the convention, the DNC convention, full of speakers who were like big-time people at the 96 Republican convention. The argument is we're the 96 Republicans. That's what it is. And they're not giving you a fundamentally different vision. And this explains how we are where we are. You don't have a Democratic Party in this country. You have a Republican Party and a diet Republican Party. And we don't have anybody actually making the case. End the wars, higher taxes on the rich, Medicare for all, free the nonviolent drug offenders, the list goes on and on. I want somebody that represents me. That would represent me. This does not. What else is he going to come out and say? I'm actually with the Republicans on this one too. The only upside of this is that, of course, the arguments are going to be total straw men from the right every step of the way. But to tell you the truth, the arguments were straw men even against Obama. When Obama was crystal clear, I will not raise taxes on anybody making $100,000 a year or less. So that's 95% of the country. It's 95% of the country. So working people are not going to see a tax increase. Joe's just taking it even further. Now it's like even upper middle class people will not see a tax increase. So Joe's not just, saying no more working class taxes. He's saying no new taxes even on the upper middle class, even on the relatively wealthy. He's basically saying only the top 1% or 0.5% are going to see a tax increase. So, but anyway, that will not stop the Republicans from turning around and arguing that, Joe's a radical leftist. He's such a radical leftist by not raising taxes on somebody making $395,000 a year. So radical. So radical. He's so radical by wanting to continue all the wars that we support. He's so radical for voting for the Patriot Act and doing everything we want him to do. He's so radical for writing the crime bill. Something we totally agree with. So radical. So he'll keep giving and giving and giving and giving more and more to them, and they'll keep spitting in his eye. And, this dynamic is going to drive us crazy in so many ways. But most importantly, because if you vote Republican, you get Republican change. If you vote Democratic, you get Republican change. That's where we're at, and this story is another great example of it.